enchantments you rarely see anywhere. I think the most playable enchantment on this list, outside of this deck, is actually the Rest in Pieces.
Yes.
That are not normally seen in this deck.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of cards that you don't normally see. Things like Wild Growth and Utopia Sprawl, which act as mana elves, basically, in this deck. They can enchant the forests that they are targeted with. And then there are lots of cards that you don't see in any other deck in the format.
Yeah.
Things like Sterling Grove, Miri's Guile,
Elephant Grass.
Elephant Grass, certainly, and of course, Solitary Confinement, which is one of the lock pieces to be able to shut opponents out of the game. So we're underway here. Michael Antrim begins play with a basic Forest and a pass, and Alex Marth has Nimble Mongoose. That Nimble Mongoose is going to be slowed down by the Rest in Peace that's already in Michael's hand.
Potentially.
Chooses.
One thing I don't see in Michael's deck that I think should be in most Enchantress decks is actually a Green Sun Zenith.
Yes.
Argothian Enchantress is a green creature and so important that it's probably worth playing extra copies of it, even if you have to
be able to search for it, especially because decks like Michael's that have Utopia Sprawl, that have Wild Growth, can get 3 mana on turn 2, and it's very valuable to have a turn 2 enchantment 12 different ways. 4 copies of the Enchantress itself, 4 copies of the Presence, and 4 copies of Green Sun Zenith, where X equals 2, to find a copy of the Enchantress.
So, Michael taking a line I don't like. How about that?
Sure.
He is just playing around literally everything.
Yep.
He's voluntarily stone raining himself to blank all of potentially not cards Alex has automatically. We don't know that. We can see Alex's hand. Michael cannot.
Right. Michael is playing mostly around the card Daze.
Yes.
He does not want Alex to have any sort of value out of that Daze. And in a deck like Alex, or in a deck like Michael's, it is a little important to be able to play around the counterspells that you can play around.
Right, but what you can't do is stone rain yourself for free.
Sure.
You cannot give a deck like Rogue Delver a free stone rain. You have to play into some.
So this turn, we are almost certainly going to see a Rest in Peace. I would guess. We also have Energy Field.
Those two combo.
Those two do combo well together.
You cannot take damage with both of those cards in play.
And I am not sure that Alex's deck has an out if both of those are in play. We will figure that out if it becomes a thing.
Not in the main deck.
In the meantime, we have Argothian Enchantress from Michael. He wants to get his engine going, and leaving up 2 mana to be able to pay for both Daze and Spell Pierce, but not both. I think that there's Argothian Enchantress on the left. Yeah. Rare from Urza's Saga.
Unlikely that the creature will get Spell Pierced, but
it is certainly possible. Spell Snare.
Spell Snare is a real card.
Spell Snare is the other singleton that is in Alex's deck.
Yes.
And so Spell Pierce, while that wouldn't be able to target it, Spell Snare
absolutely
certainly can. And here's a
Brainstorm.
So we're going to be able to try to dig for either another Daze or a Force of Will. Alex finds a second Daze, not really going to be good enough with the 2 untapped mana Michael has in play. And so this Argothian Enchantress is probably going to resolve. There it is. There's Miri's Guile.
Miri's Guile is basically a cheaper Sylvan library. Cannot draw you extra cards, but it's during your upkeep, activate Sensei's Divining Top.
Right. It looks at the top 3 cards of your library. Very valuable with the fetch land that Michael has in play. He's going to be able to look at the cards during his upkeep, and if he so chooses, shuffle them away.
Yeah. What's really important about this is that it's a 1 mana enchantment.
Yes. 1 mana enchantments, of course. With every enchantment you play, you draw a card. Doesn't matter how much they cost. And so 1 mana enchantments gain a lot of value.
Yeah. And you can't get cheaper than 1 mana for enchantments.
That's right.
So
no pact of enchantments.
Ponder from Alex Marth. Finds him a Force of Will. Really good. Excellent that Alex was able to... He He found a Force of Will and 2 very bad cards, 2 more lands that he does not need, but he has that fetch land in play.
Absolutely.
So he's actually able to keep that.
So we have Sterling Grove, Utopia Sprawl, and Sarah's Sanctum, I believe, is on top of Michael's deck.
Sarah's Sanctum, the oft forgotten broken card in the semi-cycle of Tolarian Academy and Gaia's Cradle.
And Sarah's Sanctum.
Sarah's Sanctum.
Sarah's Sanctum, of course, the one that counts enchantments. Surprise,
Weird.
surprise, showing up in this deck.
That would be good in an enchantment deck.
Certainly would. It is a legendary land. This is another land that's probably going to improve once M14 hits and the rules change, although you don't have too many Sarah's Sanctum mirror matches. So you're not, but it's still, Vesuva is not going to be able to take this out, for example.
Yes.
A lot of Urza's Saga rares in Michael's
Well,
deck.
it improves because you're able to play like one
Play one and then play the second. Yes.
and then not have them both die.
Yep, and Michael has 3 in his deck, so he will be able to chain them together, much like the Elf deck is going
Not
to.
yet.
Not yet. He's going to. Not now, but soon.
Unless this match takes approximately a week.
A little longer, I think.
Yeah.
It's more like 3 weeks. I don't know when the M14 rules date, actually. I should probably check on that, considering the fact that we're going to be covering these tournaments for a long time.
Yeah. Misdirection on your Utopia Sprawl. I would like that Utopia Sprawl,
Wow. Well, that's new. I've never seen that before.
Get over here.
So there you go. Utopia Sprawl is going to get misdirected onto Alex's Tropical Island. That is a interesting, spectacular play. So we're going to bring up Utopia Sprawl. It can only target forests. It can only enchant forests, rather.
It's still Michael's card.
Yes.
So I believe
That Michael chooses the type of mana.
Michael chooses the type of mana. He might even.
It's controller.
It's
adds.
controller. Okay.
He
I
might
was
even-
wondering if Michael got to add the mana.
to his mana pool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Alex has his force for mana.
Yeah.
Michael gets a mana.
Unfortunately, not nearly that entertaining. Alex is going to have the control of the ability as well. Michael still drew a card off of Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah. He still controls the enchantment.
Utopia Sprawl from the original Ravnica block, as you can see.
Dissension.
Dissension's the one that points down. I always get Guild Pact symbol and Dissension symbol confused. Guild Pact points up and Dissension points down.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a good like stalactite, stalagmite difference that you can use with the names to keep those straight. But
Well, in the meantime, Sterling Grove for Michael.
that is going to be met by
dazed.
days.
I'm not sure Michael's mana floating status, but I don't believe there is any.
I don't believe there is any either. I think that this is.
Is this a fetch land? Is this Windswept Tea still in play?
I think this fetch land is in play because we've tapped one forest for Utopia Sprawl that's now targeting Tropical Island. We just added 2 mana for Sterling Grove, and we have days on the stack.
So then Michael's going through some math thing, what kind of stuff he wants to do with his Windswept Teeth, maybe, or he might just let it go.
Yeah, he's deciding. Assuming this Windswept Heath is in play, which I believe it is, then he's deciding if he wants to to fight over this Sterling Grove by paying mana. Does not look like he wants to.
Okay, so that's Michael drawing from his Enchantress trigger. The text on the Urza Saga enchantments is not the same as the Oracle text. The original Urza Saga ones say whenever you successfully cast. That is all now changed to whenever you cast.
Whenever you cast.
So, even if it gets countered, you still get to draw a
see.
card.
Excellent.
Here comes a Brainstorm.
With the blue floating that Alex had.
Yeah, so, that was not a very good Brainstorm. He knew he had those 2 lands.
Yes.
I think he should
have shuffled first and then brainstormed. There is 2 Force of Wills and a Stifle in Alex's hand. I believe this Stifle's not particularly good. here, although he can stifle the come into play trigger on the Rest in Peace.
He can.
Because he does have 7 cards in his graveyard to make his Nimble Mongoose a 3/3. That's the requisite amount.
That's pretty cool.
And he can stifle the come into play trigger on Rest in Peace.
Said he's just going to force a will pitching said stifle.
And then he's going to pass. Doesn't want to deal with the Rest in Peace. That's probably a good place to be. Michael, though,
does a solitary
draws
confinement.
Solitary confinement. Still on Michael's turn, by the way, because these are with the Argothian Enchantress triggers on the stack. At end of turn, at the end of Michael's turn, Alex is going to search his library for his land.
He'll search the top card of his library.
That's right.
He knows it's there from Brainstorm.
And shuffle the rest of that away. Michael's still on a comfortable 18 life. Nimble Mongoose is not the fastest clock that Rug Delver has.
It's gonna get a little faster because once you start trying to fight Rug Delver, that's when they get Threshold.
Yes.
They generally can't get Threshold by themselves. They have to interact with you in order to get Threshold.
Yep. Nimble Mongoose is going to enter the red zone. That's going to drop Michael to 15.
So Tarmogoyf joins the party.
Tarmogoyf currently has enchantment, certainly, land, instant, and sorcery.
There's a Wild Growth, an Oblivion Ring, and a Windswept Teeth. So probably going to... The Wild Growth is basically free to draw.
Yep.
Because it does not cost him mana and it replaces itself as a card.
Also important to note that Michael has Solitary Confinement, I believe, in his hand. Solitary Confinement is a card
that is a potential big lock piece.
Yes.
When you can draw multiple, you need multiple enchantresses in play for Solitary Confinement to be a true lock. But once you get there, it can't be targeted. You can't take damage.
Yep. You gain Shroud, and also you can't be dealt damage.
You have to skip your draw step and discard a card every turn.
Well, you take the good and you take the bad.
Yeah.
And then you take.
But
the
if you're
facts
drawing
away.
a million cards,
Right,
you
then who
probably don't
cares?
need a draw step.
Exactly right.
You can probably afford to discard a card every turn. And this is what the old Enchantress decks would sit behind all game.
Is several enchantresses and a Solitary Confinement.
Interesting that Michael chose to draw the Windswept Teeth when he had, fetch land in play and multiple in his hand.
I think he just wanted to have as much mana in play as possible to blank every single taxing counterspell marker.
Okay, so Windswept Teeth is going to be cracked in response to the card draw.
Yep. That's
and
going.
we will see some sort of land from Michael, and then a Oblivion Ring will probably take out Tarmogoyf.
Unless another misdirection is in our future, which I find highly unlikely.
I don't think you can misdirect an Oblivion Ring.
Oh, you can't?
You have to
Oh, you have to misdirect.
You can stifle it.
You can. There's like other spells that can misdirect spells and abilities.
Yes.
But misdirection can only use spells.
Correct.
See.
So Elephant Grass, the draw from Michael. That might come to play, but not necessarily.
In a deck like Alex's, where the margins are so thin and he has to use all of his resources, making a propaganda effect is very powerful.
Yeah, Elephant Grass is absolutely one of the best cards against Rug. In normal games, this is not a normal game. Usually Utopia Sprawls enchant your own lands, not your opponent's lands.
Sure, and also Rug doesn't typically have 4 mana available.
Yes.
Nimble Mongoose comes in, 11 life for Michael Antrim.
This is an interesting decision. I guess he could either
keep the blue card in hand, which is Delver of Secrets, or for the Force of Will, of course, or he can just cast it.
That's where you want to be.
And that's exactly
2 Enchantresses presence. Basically enchantment versions of Argothian Enchantress. 3 mana enchantment. Whenever you play an enchantment, draw a card.
Very powerful ability. So Michael's going to get as much mana in play as he can. He currently has 3 on that land right there. That's going to be used to cast Enchantress's Presence. We'll have that queued up for you also. That is a rare from Onslaught that has the Enchantress ability of whenever you successfully, well, now it's just regularly, cast an enchantment spell, you may draw a card. It is a may, right?
No.
Oh, it is just draw a card, so you can theoretically deck yourself by accident.
Yes, absolutely. I believe one of them is a may and one of them is not. Obviously, a Guardian would be the may. Might be wrong on that.
Michael now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enchantments. So he has 6 mana in his mana pool for this 7th enchantment, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, this is the 6th. Does it count the opposing Utopia Sprawl?
Yes.
All right, so it is 6 in play. This is the 7th.
Yes. Michael still controls the Utopia Sprawl.
Yep.
That was misdirected.
And now we're cooking with gasoline. Draw 3 cards off of Solitary Confinement. Not great news for the Rug Delver player. Michael's going to drop to 10 here.
He can't take damage, but he can still lose life.
Yes.
This should do it for this game. Michael is very much ahead and has an unbeatable lock piece.
He does. Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it unbeatable because what he needs to do now is actually win the game, and I believe Alex is going to make him do that. If he wasn't going to, then this result Solitary would probably have done that. What he needs to do is get the Rest in Peace Helm combo online, or get the one of Sigil of the Empty Throne that's in his deck, and use that to beat his opponent into submission with Angels. So, if we counter the Sigil of the Empty Throne, we've already cast 4 Rest in Peace, or 1 Rest in Peace. There's only 3 left in the deck. That's 4 total pieces. There are 4 Force of Wills in Alex's deck. I believe. Oh no, he's got one in his graveyard.
There's
already,
a City of Solitude.
There's also a City of Solitude that he could hide behind. But Alex still can theoretically try to keep playing and burn his. Or I guess he can't burn his opponent out. He's got no.
There's no way. Alex has no ways to win, assuming Michael keeps the Solitary Confinement.
Correct. Now, Michael does have many, many, many lands in his deck, many, many non-enchantment spells. It is theoretically possible that he could run out of enchantments to play. Mathematically unlikely.
More likely that he just forgets.
Right.
But there's a dice on top of Michael's deck. And if a person has a foiled out Enchantress deck, they probably played it once or twice.
Absolutely, yeah. And if they have the reminder on top of your deck, we always suggest that you do the reminder for things like Slaughter Pact, any type of upkeep ability, such as Miri's Guile. Not
Dark
really
Confidant.
that important on Miri's Guile, much more important for Dark Confidant, much more important for Solitary Confinement. Anything that says during or at the beginning of your upkeep, very important.
There's a Rest in Peace.
So there's part of the combo there.
I believe Michael can draw that. You get discard, sacrifice Sterling Grove to get a tutor piece, like another Rest in Peace, or like he needs to find the Helm.
He needs to find the Helm at this point, or Sigil of the Empty Throne. He can.
Yeah.
Alex now with plenty of mana and plenty of enchantments. This is a very common position for the Enchantress decks. Once Rug Delver is unable to continue applying pressure with their taxing spells, this is a common place for them to find themselves. Force of Will is going to take out that other Rest in Peace. There are still
Fire Ice, one of my favorite cards. I love Fire Ice.
Yeah, Fire and Ice, very, very awesome Magic card.
There's a Helm.
So now we have Helm of Obedience and Rest in Peace. And while under normal circumstances, the Enchantress deck would take a lot longer to win, we now have Helm of Obedience to be able to do it right now, should Michael so choose, with his double-digit number of enchantments in play.
I'm not sure what Michael is not just tapping his thing, making his Helm of Obedience.
He's just
Helm
making
of Obedience,
sure.
quite the obscure card.
There's Sigil of the Empty Throne.
Going for a much cooler win, apparently.
Possibly. we'll pull up Sigil of the Empty Throne for you. That's the alternate win condition. That says, very similar to the Enchantress effect, whenever you cast a enchantment, instead of drawing a card, you get a 4/4 Angel.
Right. Drawing cards is fun and all, but sometimes you need to win the game.
Absolutely. And so we'll show you the alternate win condition here, Sigil of the Empty Throne. The other win condition is Helm of Obedience.
He has one in his hand. He's simply choosing not to
play the Helm of Obedience?
Yes. Sure.
I think he's just showing off for the camera at this point.
Don't appreciate showing off. When you have a game won,
he wants everyone to see his lovely foil Enchantress deck. I've noticed that a lot of Enchantress players have foiled out their decks.
Interesting.
Not nearly as many of several of the other archetypes.
Yes.
I would say that the number of Enchantress players that have foiled out and foreign and altered cards and things of that nature, similar to the number of players that have foil and foreign Storm. Very similar mindset. So Michael's going to continue drawing cards, continuing to make angels, continuing to make mana. Alex waiting patiently. He's just happy to be here. There's angel number 3 of the Kristen Pleskow tokens. Easy for me to say with the angels.
I'll let you say it then.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
So
Michael now with about 7,000 cards in his hand. There's Sigil of the Empty Throne. Plane Chase, I believe.
That's the plane chase symbol. Is originally from, oh dear.
It's originally from, I believe, Conflux.
It's my best guess as well.
This is from the second Plane Chase expansion. You can tell because they have slightly different mana or set symbols.
Yes.
Instead of the spikes being on top, these spikes are in the middle of the set symbol. For the difference between the 2009 and 2012. So Michael now is going to go to his end step, deciding what he's going to keep.
The worst part about this is, I think we're going to have to play another turn.
I agree. I think that Michael's game plan actually was to not let Alex know that he has Helm of Obedience in his deck. I think that he wants Alex to think that it's just traditional, boring Enchantress that has no way to combo kill.
Okay.
I think that that was the game plan. That this was not actually just showing off. This was playing for game 2 so that Alex doesn't know that he has an insta-kill in his deck. And so Michael's going to...
He is hiding quite a bit of information. He's hiding his energy field, his tropical island, his energy... Yeah, and I said
so
energy
he's hiding
field.
any blue at all.
Yes.
From Alex. Once he's in this dominant of a position, he can hide that information.
Sure.
So I think that this is playing for game 2. Once he found himself in this position, he decided to let Alex think that it's just normal everyday Enchantress, not letting him know.
As if there is normal everyday Enchantress.
Sure. If Alex is familiar with the deck,
yeah.
he would know that Sigil of the Empty Throne is one of the main win conditions. He would not know that Helm of Obedience is in the deck.
Yeah. He really didn't show anything, anything other than the old classic. You know that Enchantress has won a Star City Open?
Did it?
Yeah.
In the hands of?
Lou Christopher.
Okay.
One of the first Opens on the West Coast. It might have been the first one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know
Shout
that,
out to Lou Christopher. He's a good dude.
He's a very good dude. I know several players that have played Enchantress on the Open Series.
Our feature match player last round, Chris Anderson,
was playing the blue-green Enchantress,
yes.
which was sort of a more tempo deck that had Cloud of Fairies and things in it.
So once we go to sideboard, Alex Marth does not have any tranquilities.
Sadly, no Parasolini,
Nope.
no Reverent Silence. Not really well prepared for the
Did not come prepared.
Enchantress matchup.
Cards that are potential cards to bring in. Spell Pierce.
Yep.
One of those. We like ones, and Alex likes ones. One Spell Pierce, one Vendilion Click, one Crossing Grip. That'll be very good. That's about it.
Yep. I think that, well, Rug Delver in general likes to have the one-of sideboards because they have so many ways to manipulate their deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
So having one of very powerful, very varied answers like Rough and Tumble, Sulfur Elemental, Grafdigger's Cage for specific matchups that they can dig for is very powerful. Unfortunately, he does not have the one of Reverent Silence or
Yes.
Tranquil Grove or
You
whatever.
only get 15 cards.
You only get 15 cards. I'm sure he could have found room once the sideboards go up to about 30.
Yeah.
But over
Lucky.
in Michael's deck, he has 3 City of Solitude in his sideboard.
So,
I would anticipate
yeah.
that card coming in. City of Solitude is a Visions rare, I believe.
Yes.
2 colorless and a green, and basically shuts off counterspells.
Mm-hmm.
He also has an additional energy field in his sideboard. I could see that coming in. There's City of Solitude. Each player may play spells and abilities only on his or her turn.
Yes, you cannot activate anything on your opponent's turn.
He also has 3 Oblivion Rings. I don't think that those are necessary here.
No.
Oblivion Ring mostly for the Sneak and Show matchup, I would assume.
Yes.
Leyline of Sanctity, also not for this matchup. That's mainly for targeted discard. The other singletons in his sideboard are Aura of Silence, Pithing Needle, Karmic Justice, and Enlightened Tutor. The Enlightened Tutor, it would be able to search up any of his singletons in the deck.
Right. I feel like Enlightened Tutor is a card that can come out of the deck.
Absolutely.
Since you want all your cards to count.
Yes.
Enlightened Tutor, if you Enlightened Tutor for something, that card gets countered or otherwise nullified, you're down 2 cards.
Yes.
And you need every card, every resource you have access to get over Rug Delvers. And a lot of Legacy decks are doing that these days. I'm actually surprised Rug Delver is still having success. I think any deck I build, most decks other people build, have the ability to just 1-for-1 with maybe even at a tempo loss, but still eventually the more powerful cards will
Michael's
pull
going to
out.
go down to 6 cards here. I want to briefly talk about Karmic Justice. I think that that's a card that could also come in very good against Wastelands. If your opponent plays a Wasteland, you get to destroy something of theirs.
Yes, anytime they destroy one of your permanents, non-creature permanents,
Yep.
you can destroy one of their permanents.
Yep. And that's the old quote from the Untouchables. They send one of ours to the hospital. We send one of theirs to the morgue. That's basically what this card does.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So, I would not be surprised if Karmic Justice came in.
I don't expect it.
But I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Another card that I could see coming in out of Alex's deck is Rough and Tumble.
Oh,
Just
yes.
to be able to deal with Argothian
Absolutely.
Enchantresses.
Yeah, that should absolutely come in. Yeah, I missed that first.
So Michael's 6 has a lot of lands in it. Looks like he's going to keep. Not sure how much live action it
Yep,
has.
there's the Rough and Tumble.
Yep. So we did bring
Alex,
in Rough
yeah,
Tumble.
Alex is here. Argothian Enchantress has the original hexproof. Called it Shroud.
Called it Shroud.
Where you couldn't enchant your own creatures either. If you wanted to play a creature that your opponent can target, you couldn't target it either.
There's Rough Tumble, if you want to
So-
turn your head sideways and take a look. Rough is the half that we're interested in, being able to Pyroclasm the ground creatures.
Yes. Deals 2 damage to each creature that isn't Delver Secrets, basically.
Insectile Aberration, please.
Yes.
It deals damage to Delver of Secrets.
It would deal damage, and that'd be a shame.
Yeah.
So, in keeping with our Shroud theme, Nimble Mongoose attacks for 1.
That's right. Just a lowly 1/1 right now. Michael has Miri's Guile in play, once again, to be able to sculpt his draws going forward. And there's a Tarmogoyf. Currently just a 1/2. Subject to change later.
Boy, a good set of cards. A go the Enchantress, Enchantress's Presence.
Yeah. 2 of Michael's engines, shall we say.
It'll be interesting to see if he plays into Days or wants to play around Days and into Spell Snare. Or later Spell Pierce with the Enchantress's Presence.
Alex,
He can curve out. He has the option to curve out pretty well here. Should he decide to take it. The other thing you could do is very risky in my opinion, but if he wanted to Wild Growth and Serra Sanctum, play Serra Sanctum, Wild Growth Serra Sanctum, he could do that as well.
oh dear.
And that would play around Days,
Sure.
but not Wasteland. Wow, he's fetching away one of his Enchantresses.
Yeah, I don't know if he did he have a non-fetch land in hand?
He did. At minimum, I would play the Serra Sanctum
Sure.
over fetching. Generally, these Enchantress decks need every single Enchantress effect they can get because that's the card to counter. That's the card they need to stick.
Michael is very, the way he plays this deck is slightly different than the way a lot of players play, which is to try to play the Wild Growths on turn 1 and try and get up to 3 mana, which plays into the not having Green Sun Zenith in his deck.
Yes.
But he wants to use those Wild Growths to draw cards later.
Okay, so Alex Marth really doesn't like Wild Growth and is going to Daze it twice.
Yep, double daze. That's going to put enchantment, land, instant into the graveyard, making Tarmogoyf a 3/4, and Nimble Mongoose still a 1/1. So that's going to be a total of 4 damage rumbling into Michael Antrim's life total. Here's the 3/4. Our patent-pending Tarmogoyf dice there, sitting on top of the Tarmogoyf.
So Ponder, Stifle, and
Brainstorm.
yes.
I think that Alex simply forgot that he had Ponder in hand to get an extra damage out of Tarmogoyf.
Yes, a little bit out of sequencing there.
But a lot of players, I've seen this a lot actually, try to hide their mistake by being, oh, I forgot to play the Ponder. That means I can't play it post-combat, even though it was clearly the right play.
Yeah, because then my opponent will think I'm stupid.
Right.
And
And that just compounds the mistake.
Yes,
It's just
absolutely.
another mistake. And so Alex, even though he missed 1 damage, still going to play the Ponder post-combat, draws into another volcanic island, and he will pass the turn.
it's 5 cards in. So Mirror Scout activation, not very good here, and I don't think Michael has another fetch land to. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
That's the first one.
And so Argothian Enchantress is an option here, as is Enchantress's Presence. I would anticipate the creature would come down if he has a 1-mana enchantment in hand. I didn't note if he did or not. I would probably still expect that one to come down first because you want to draw the card off the Enchantress's Presence.
Yes.
Not just draw the card off of its triggers thereafter.
He might be a little choked on mana, at least feel like he is. Although he does have, Michael has a Serra Sanctum in his hand.
Yes. And there is Argothian Enchantress. 0/1 Shroud.
Yeah, so he goes with your play. Does not have a 1-mana enchantment, however.
Yep. But we know that Alex. Oh, did Alex put back the Rough and Tumble early?
No, he saw it when he was shuffling his deck.
I see. Land 2, which is really land 4 for Alex Marth, since he returned 2 islands to his hand. 5 damage in. Michael Antrim's life total drops an additional 25% from its original 20. And
So-
that is a good
Wild
Miri's
Growth.
Guile. That's a Wild Growth, a Miri's Guile, and a Sterling Grove.
Exceptional cards.
All very powerful cards
If
here.
Michael would have kept the Enchantress's present, he'd be very close to
To locking Alex
locking
out.
with Solitary Confinement. As it is, I think Michael's going to have to play it as a fog, effectively.
Yeah, because he has to expect that Alex has burn spells. With so many cards in hand, having cast Brainstorm and Ponder already. So he's going to choose the Wild Growth, trying to get a little bit deeper into his deck.
I believe he's going to cast all 4 of his enchantments this turn.
Okay.
Except for the fact that this is going to Brainstorm first.
Yep. Brainstorm's going to find Wasteland, Stifle, and Lightning Bolt. This is a no shuffle effects, so no counter spells. But full of spells.
Yes. I feel like Michael has to simply play out the solitary confinement and let it go next turn and hope to continue to chain things. Stifle the trigger on go the Enchantress. So basically, Funeral Charm you.
Yep.
You do not draw a card.
Counter your Reach Through Mists. Michael has 2 lands and 1 spell remaining in his hand. That 1 spell...
And he knows the 2 cards on top of his deck.
He does. And they are both enchantments. So he can theoretically keep this solitary confinement in play for an additional turn.
But he can't draw a card to further move through his deck.
Sure. 2 enchantments in play means 2 mana from Sarah's Sanctum, which entered the battlefield just now. And solitary confinement is going to trigger. That is going to be a Sterling Grove. Sterling Grove is going to trigger again. And now, not only does Michael have Shroud, but so do all of the enchantments. So even Corrosion Grip does not...
Yes. The only targetable card in Michael's... I suppose lands are targetable.
The lands are targetable from Wasteland.
The Sterling Grove is targetable itself.
Yes. There's Oblivion Ring, land, and Elephant Grass. Very good here. Doesn't necessarily need the solitary confinement anymore, as you can draw cards with the Elephant Grass on the battlefield.
Yes.
And that will effectively slow to a grinding, not quite to a grinding halt, but certainly slow way down Alex's attack. Michael is just searching for Rest in Peace. Rest in Peace completely neuters Alex's entire game plan.
Offense, yes.
Turning Tarmogoyf into an 0-1, Nimble Mongoose into a 1-1.
Well, here's the thing. He can find it if he wants to. That Sterling Grove can be used as an Enlightened Tutor.
Yeah, I am interested to see what Michael's game plan for actually winning here is, as opposed to not losing. His not losing game plan is going swimmingly.
Yes.
Enchantress is very good at not losing. It gets to the point where he needs to start winning. Otherwise, Alex will be able to keep going.
There's another Stifle from Alex. So Michael's now really choked on cards in hand.
Yes.
That Enchantress, the solitary confinement is going to go away at the end of Michael's upkeep.
So the solitary confinement, keeping Michael alive, is going to go away very, very soon. I believe that this the Sterling Grove has to sacrifice here, and is probably going to go find Rest in Peace, would be my guess.
That is also my best guess.
Yep, there it is. That's going to go on top of Michael's library. We'll show you Sterling Grove real quick. Another card that has...
no applications outside of this deck.
Exactly. No applications outside of this deck. It's an Enlightened Tutor stapled to a Greater Oromancy, basically. Other enchantments you control have Shroud.
That's deep.
Yeah, I apologize for the too deep of a reference there. Other enchantments you control have Shroud, and if you pay colorless and sacrifice it, you can search your library for any old enchantment and put it on top of your library.
Rest in Peace. Only has the opportunity to cast only one planes for white mana, but there are 3 enchantments on top of his deck.
Yep.
Might as well draw one.
The Rug Delver deck is about to be completely neutered. We're fresh out of Sterling Groves, by the way, or of Stifles, to be able to stifle the Rest in Peace trigger. So, Rest in Peace is going to resolve.
Sorry about your Tarmogoyf.
Tarmogoyf is no longer happening. Nimble Mongoose is now an 8-turn
Is there an 01
clock.
setting on the Tarmogoyf?
I doubt it. I would highly doubt that we have an 01. Sorry about your luck.
Yeah. Happens. In the meanwhile, Alex is drawing his absolute best card against the Rest in Peace. Delver of Secrets.
Yep, and there's the checklist card, getting the Delver of Secrets. Alex has the Lightning Bolt still in hand, putting Michael effectively at 4 life. And there's the Helm that we hid in game 1, and now we're going to be able to cast, assuming we have another land, which I don't think we do.
There's a land in the Mirisgal, but the card in Michael's hand is Rest in Peace #2.
Right, so he can't draw both of these cards.
Correct.
He's going to have to wait a turn.
He's going to have to sweat an attack from Delver Secrets or Insectile Aberration.
Yep. He's also going to have to sweat a counterspell here if he wants to play.
He can play the rest. He can play the Helm just for 4 mana. Helm of Obedience costs 4 mana to play. Effectively 1 mana to activate.
Yes. The way that that's a whole wall of text, but essentially what it says is
none of it matters.
None of it matters. It says pay a colorless and tap. If you have a Rest in Peace in play, you win.
Your opponent
you deck your opponent.
You deck your opponent, yes.
We'll leave it on screen so that you can actually read what it does. It has something to do with revealing creature cards. I've seen it activated without a Rest in Peace or a Leyline of the Void in play, but not regularly. Essentially what this card's purpose is to be a combo piece. And there it is in play. So we're going to have to sweat an attack step before we...
Do not cast Lightning Bolt, Alex. If Alex casts Lightning Bolt, Michael will know to chump block. Alex also needs to flip this Delver.
Yep, if he doesn't... Oh, well, there's 2 Lightning Bolts, so who cares?
Yeah, that was easy.
So both of the creatures come in.
Michael knows the block, but
bolts.
Hey, look what I got.
So Alex Marth wins that game with a resolved Rest in Peace and a resolved Helm of Obedience.
Just 1 mana short.
1 mana short.
Usually you're 1 mana short against Rug Delver.
That's very true. 1 mana short against Rug Delver is someplace that I've been many times.
Yes. Most people that lose to Rug Delver are usually a mana short.
So a couple other interesting pieces of Michael Antrim's deck, just to keep in mind. We mentioned that Rest in Peace combos with Helm of Obedience. We also mentioned that it combos with a card called Energy Field, which we haven't seen yet. It's another Urza's Saga rare. Are you sensing a theme here with this deck? We have a ton of Urza's Saga rares in this deck.
And neither of them are Sneak Attack or Show and Tell.
Yeah, neither of them are Sneak Attack and Show and Tell. Huh.
Urza's Saga was quite the set.
Yeah, Voltaic Key was in that also. Dear Lord. So there's Energy Field. Card very near and dear to my heart. Got me into a SCG Cincinnati Legacy Open Top 8 in mono blue control. Prevent all damage dealt to you from sources that you do not control. It does not prevent damage from, let's say, Pain Lands, things like that. Or if you happen to cast Earthquake, I suppose. And whenever a card is put into your graveyard, sacrifice Energy Field.
What happens if you have a card that says you can't put cards into your graveyard?
Well, then you can't put cards into your graveyard.
So Energy Field's never going to die.
It just doesn't have the second line of text. It just says, prevent all damage dealt to you from sources you do not control.
That's a really powerful ability.
It's an extremely powerful ability.
It's a good combo.
It's not bad. Probably the second best Rest in Peace combo available.
Yes, the other one kills your opponent on this. Well, you have to pay off full mana to kill your opponent.
One of them says you win the game. This one just says you can't really lose the game.
Yes. I played my fair share of Platinum Angels to know the difference.
So Michael Antrim looks like he's going to keep, as will Alex Marth, and we're headed towards game 3.
Clock is very low. Time's going to be an issue.
Looks like Michael's actually going to mulligan.
Yes.
Now, most Enchantress decks, you would think, would have draws by this point. As you can see, we're starting game 3 with very little time left. common theme for Enchantress decks, but being able to activate the Helm of Obedience to immediately win the game, as opposed to having to grind and block and prevent damage.
Words of War skip 10 draw steps.
Exactly. Attack with my Eternal Witness and my Cloud of Fairies for 14 turns.
Yeah.
Michael can pay 5 mana. Alex looks like he's going to keep his hand.
Yeah, so I go down to 6 cards. With each mulligan, with the Enchantress deck, it gets tougher and tougher to accumulate things that you need to win the game. Because you need a bunch, especially against a deck like Rug, you need a bunch of mana to, go over put your key cards past Spell Pierce and Daze. And you need a bunch of, like an Enchantress, and you need a bunch of things. Like, you saw Michael run out of cards last game just by getting a spell Stifle.
Twice. Yeah. So both players with less than ideal, shall we say, opening turn plays. Alex's deck would much rather have a Delver of Secrets. Michael Antrim would much rather have a Wild Growth or a Utopia Sprawl. But both are perfectly
brings
fine.
Our Utopia Sprawl into play, I believe. Also a Rest in Peace on top of Michael's deck, except for he doesn't want it. Not sure where... I'm gonna defer to Michael in this situation, but I'm not sure why. I would be slamming the Rest in Peace there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that he is... Michael has been living in fear of Daze all match. It paid off for him in the first round, when Alex had to use 2 Dazes to deal with 1 spell in the mid-game.
Force of Will on Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah, interesting.
Aggressive.
Very aggressive. Trying to bottleneck Michael's mana once again.
Michael voluntarily fetched.
Sure. Nimble Mongoose attacking for 1, beginning the onslaught.
I think Alex might need to just basically mana screw Michael to win this game in 4 minutes.
Absolutely.
So that might be one of his things. Although he's taking his sweet time on this Ponder, so
sure.
I'm
we'll
not
verify
sure.
that 4 minutes is correct for you.
It is.
It is correct. So Alex's deck, even if he takes his time, is actually much better equipped to win. Let's say quickly. Even if he takes his time, whereas Michael actually needs to play very quickly in order to take it down.
But Michael plays, if Rest in Peace gets into play, quickly is out the window.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially because Alex has not been able to find another creature to throw onto the board to pressure Michael. Rest in Peace, Sterling Grove, and Land are on top of Michael's deck. And Sterling Grove.
Michael not draw a card?
We'll check on that because I think he looked at Miri's guy and then didn't draw a card. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that is what happened. So Alex Marth is going to Brainstorm at end of turn. He does have a fetch land to be able to shuffle 1 of those cards away. He also has a Stifle in hand.
Looks like he can get up to 4, 5, 6, 10.
Looks like he did draw the card. Michael did on his turn. So Alex is has another Daze, another Ponder, a Stifle to be able to deal with the Rest in Peace trigger.
Yes.
And a Lightning Bolt to be able to try to finish Michael
There's a
off.
Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce will be able to deal with the Rest in Peace much better.
Neither player really interested in finishing this match on time.
Absolutely.
Time management, big part of tournament magic. Just the way it is. We have to play 50-minute rounds. It's plenty of time to finish a match. Once you get to the point where your match is taking a long time, you have to realize that and play much faster.
Yep. There are many players who are known for their, shall we say, deliberate pace, who have had much success. These players, both 5-1, both very successful, and neither have picked up a draw thus far.
Yeah.
So hasn't been an issue up to this point. Perhaps less aware of the dangers of the end of the round because they haven't had to deal with it today.
Yes. Or maybe they just managed to successfully avoid it.
Yep.
So Spell Pierce,
Spell
for
Pierce
Alex.
on Rest in Peace is going to be paid for.
I will pay. Then trigger comes in. I will daze.
And now we're going to stifle the fetch land in response.
All right, so the old 3 for, I guess 3 for 2.
To be able to destroy the land.
Yes.
And counter the spell. And it didn't really matter there if Michael had fetched first, because the stifle would have happened in any case.
I assume the stifle would have gotten the Rest in Peace trigger, but this is much more effective for Alex.
Because Alex only has 6 cards currently in his graveyard. Now we are at the requisite threshold to make Nimble Mongoose a 3/3. There's 2 lightning bolts, putting Michael at essentially 9, and after attacks, essentially 6.
So 2 more attacks from Michael will do the trick this game.
Yep, we'll see how Michael wants to handle this game as we head forward.
Looks content to make Alex turn 1.
So we have another Sterling Grove on top.
Those are not very good.
These cards are not very good. He needed to be able to search for a artifact, and Sterling Grove does not do that. He can search for another Rest in Peace.
Yes, that will take the clock down. I don't think other cards in what was it? Because he never got an Enchantress into play.
Absolutely. I think that Michael has to just search. He has to put these cards back, not draw any of them, and search with the Sterling Grove for Rest in Peace.
I would agree with that.
That does 2 things. It puts a combo piece into play. It also shuts off the Nimble Mongoose and any future Tarmogoyfs.
Yeah.
That is the line that I would suspect is going to happen here, unless he wants to draw the Sterling Grove to find a second combo piece of some kind.
He's intent on playing around even more, and I don't think he has the luxury of doing this. Lightning Bolt you.
Go to 9.
You're at 9.
Alex.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Alex is going to...
No, you're not getting Rest in Peace anymore.
Nope. Michael now with 2 basic forests in play.
Yeah, so Alex's turn. This current turn is turn 1.
Yep.
So Alex will have 2 more attacks. He might only need 1 more.
Yeah, I think that he only needs 1 more. Alex has 1 card in his hand. It is Lightning Bolt. Michael is going to go... Oh, dear. I don't think that he can't search for the energy field because he has no blue mana.
Yeah, he will... I think Michael's drawing dead, because I don't think there's a single card for 2 green mana that he can put into play.
Even Elephant Grass isn't good enough here
because
Alex has 3 lands.
Yes, he can pay it too. So, but Michael doesn't know about the second Lightning Bolt, so he might get something that allows him to draw the game over 2 turns.
Alex, as it turns out, managed the clock exactly correctly.
I don't know about that. He could. I feel like this game could have been won much quicker.
Michael is going to get the Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there is a way for him to be able to draw and cast it.
There is not. If I'm
not mistaken here.
Not mistaken, yes. Utopia Sprawl will probably come down named White, but that will, none of these 3 cards help Michael.
No misdirection for this Utopia Sprawl.
Yeah, play your bolt.
Play your bolt, and that is the game. So, Alex Marth defeats Michael Antrim there. He's going to move to 6-1, while Michael Antrim's interesting Rest in Peace Helm of Obedience Enchantress deck drops to 5-2. I don't believe any 5-2